Welcome to Squirrels of Doom, Drinking with Geeks. I'm Matt.
I'm Roz.
And today we're going to be drinking gimlets and making lime cordial. Do you want to start us off? You're the resident gin expert. I'm personally not as big of a gin fan. I have some gin drinks that I really like, but Roz is definitely the gin aficionado, we'll politely call it, of the two of us.
I do love gin drinks. The great part about the gimlet is that it comes with a really fun history and a little bit of controversy in the cocktail community.
Yes.
So
let's start with the history.
Yeah.
It's got a nice classic British colonial empire history with all the baggage that entails. But let's not talk about that, and let's talk about the fun part, the booze.
And the science part.
Yes, the science part. So, we're probably all familiar with the idea of British sailors and stuff as limeys, because in the 1700s, they realized, hey, we keep getting scurvy. Maybe if you just had some vitamin C. And so they started taking limes aboard their ships.
But Matt, if you take limes on your ship and it's a really long way to go, they're all going to go bad. What do you do?
Well, audience member, you put them in booze. So you get your grog, just rum and lime and some sugar. They kept their mandatory rum allotment for another century after Rose's was invented. But the idea behind whatever the guy that invented Rose's lime cordial's name was, his last name was Rose, but I don't remember his first name.
Their website has all this info, and you can go read about it.
Yes. They're very proud of their history, as well they should be. The idea was to figure out a way to preserve limes that didn't involve alcohol, and he patented his, method, which is very similar to what we're going to be making today. When you're making a gimlet, that's actually the flavor you're looking for, is that acerbic, kind of medicinal, preserved lime flavor is actually part of the gimlet, which is where some of this gimlet controversy comes in.
I think if you've searched how to make a gimlet because you've been curious about it, or you've heard about it, or you saw it on a menu somewhere, you tried it, you're going to see a lot of recipes that are not a gimlet. You're going to see a lot of recipes for a gin sour. Also, fantastic. Everyone loves a gin sour. It's a hot day, like today. Amazing. You're going to want to make one. They have all the similar kinds of ingredients. So, gin, lime juice, and some sort of sugar.
Personally, I would say, yeah, that probably is, I wouldn't say a better drink, but more to my taste, for sure. But it's not a gimlet. It's a gin sour.
You're making something else really delicious. Yeah. You're just making a gin sour.
And
also great.
If you don't like the gimlet, and you don't like that medicinal taste, that's okay. You just don't like a gimlet.
I'll drink your gimlets. Oh, I just hit my lap.
Yeah.
I'll drink your gimlets.
Noobs. Yeah, you don't have to like every cocktail out there. No one's asking you to. The most classic recipes from the Savoy Cocktail Guide, which is from 1930, and it's one of the heavy hitters out there. 1 part Rose's lime syrup and 1 part gin. And this is actually confirmed in Raymond Chandler's The Long Goodbye, where a character says something to the effect of, a gimlet is 1 part gin, 1 part Rose's lime, and nothing else.
A real gimlet.
Once you kind of get used to the idea that, this is supposed to taste a little medicinal, that's a vital part of it, it's actually a pretty great drink. One caveat to all of this is that if you are going to use a store-bought lime cordial, such as Rose, in particular Rose's lime cordial, be very careful depending on where you're living. The lime cordial that's made in the UK, and fortunately for us here in Canada, is actually very similar to the original recipe, using actual lime juice and cane sugar and not using a whole bunch of preservatives. Different companies, are responsible for the manufacture of roses around the world, and so it's made differently. And US and New Zealand in particular It's like, you know, if you look at the ingredient list, it's just like corn syrup and flavorings and food coloring and additives and stuff. And so if you live in one of those places, I'd recommend finding another brand of lime cordial in the US in particular. Sorry, folks in New Zealand or anywhere else in the world. I have no idea what you've got access to. But in the US, you can probably find BG Reynolds, which is a brand from, I think they're from Portland or somewhere in the Pacific Northwest. I'm not going to stake my reputation on where. They make fantastic products, and their lime cordial is really excellent if you don't want to make it yourself. But if you do, we highly recommend making it yourself. It doesn't take very long. The most pain in the ass part is you got to peel some limes. And so with that, I think it's time to get on to making some cordial. Take it away, Roz.
Let's get some limes. The way I make lime cordial is with lime juice, zest from the limes, and sugar. Step 1, wash the limes. And the next step is that we want to get the zest from 10 of these limes. We want to make sure that we're really careful to get as little of that white, bitter pith as possible. So once you've got about 10 limes zestfully zested, you need to get about 2 cups of lime juice. And you want to make sure that your limes are at room temperature. And then another good trick is to press them and roll them a little bit before you cut them. And then we're going to use the press in order to get as much lime juice as possible. So working with limes and lemons, you know that they are pretty inconsistent. So I've actually ended up with, instead of 2 cups of lime juice, 1.5 cups of lime juice. And it's pretty easy to adjust your recipe now. All you need to do is we're going to boil this down. We're going to reduce it by half. Sweet, sour, and you know it's going to have that little bit of lime bitter. It totally smells like a gimlet. It's like a little bit cleaning fluid and super sour lime awesome. The tricky part of this whole process now is that you have to measure to reduce by half. So you need a heat-safe glass measuring cup, like the one that I was using to begin with. And then, pro tip from Roz, you only have to do the math once if you mark the line of where you're going. So I had 1.5 cups. I need 3/4 cups. I don't have to think about it every single time I go back. I just use one of my handy D&D markers and make myself a little marker. How far have we reduced? Getting close. We gotta do a little more. It's better to reduce too much than not enough. Bang on. It smells great. The next step is to add the sugar. So we need equal parts by volume sugar to match the amount of reduced lime juice that we've got. Just dissolving all that sugar in our lime juice. Now we grab our zest and we let all of this beautifulness steep for 15 minutes. Our last step is to filter out the lime zest. And now I've got my lime cordial in a jar where I ambitiously expected to make slightly more, but you know what? Now it just goes in the fridge and it's ready for whenever I want to make a gimlet. Once you've made lime cordial, making a gimlet is super easy. It's 2 ounces of gin and 3/4 ounce of your lime cordial. Today I'm making my gimlets with Unruly Gin, which is a gin from Vancouver Island. And the gimlets come out with this beautiful, light, just a hint of the citrus color. And garnish with a lime wheel.
This thing looks fantastic, and I am really excited to give it a try. So, cheers.
To gimlets.
Cheers. Yeah, that's delicious. That is really tasty.
Ooh, it's so sour and sweet, and then it's just punches you in the face with the gin.
Mm-hmm.
So good.
I don't think it actually punches you in the face with gin. I think she's being colorful. I think it's a pleasant, refreshing drink. Don't be afraid of a big gin punch in the face.
Maybe a love tap.
Yeah, little, just gonna leave this alone. It's a great drink.
Important things about gimlets, though. I mean, we talked about how...
Tell me, Professor.
And we looked up acerbic as a word, which we used earlier, to make sure we were using it correctly. We don't want to incorrectly use a big word.
Classic sign of being a big nerd like us is to use a fancy word and then be like, have this panic attack about, oh my god, does that actually mean what I think it means? And then you gotta go look it up and make sure. And we were right.
It is, that sort of extreme sour and a little bit bitter. And I think that it's more that what you have a problem with is that idea that it almost, and when you're making your syrup too, it's a bit medicinal, almost like a cleaner kind of a smell to it.
Yeah, it really smells when you're boiling down the lime juice. You can, that's the smell that is rose and is a gimlet. That medicinal, like, floor cleaner. It sounds really unappetizing. I don't think we're doing a good job of selling the gimlet.
I promise they're so delicious, though.
It's pretty subtle once it's mixed in with everything else.
And everything really blends together.
Yeah.
Even though what you're making is a small cocktail. You're only going to have maybe like 3.5 ounces by the time you're done. You don't need that much more than it because it's just a lovely sipper. You're just going to sit there and enjoy it and feel super classy.
Yeah. We've got a bunch of lights set up here. Sweating like a pig. It might as well be the middle of July or August in here. And this is going down easy afternoon sipper.
Now that you've learned how to make your own lime cordial, and you look up some recipes online, you'll see that there's a lot of different ways to make it. We're doing something really simple, and we don't add any preservatives. So there's no citric acid or tartaric acid, but maybe we'll try that next.
Yeah, we were thinking, if there's interest, we'd really love to do a video trying a few different ways of making gimlet, some of which are not gimlet, a few different ways of making lime cordial, some of which are a little more intense, involve some more ingredients. We saw, or I guess I saw, when I was looking up recipes on my own, a recipe for lime cordial that involved beer. And it was like beer or club soda. I was like, whoa, I assume you're getting your acid from that instead, but like, this sounds intense. I don't know. It does not sound like Rose's lime, at any rate.
I volunteer as tribute?
Yes, but we're gonna have to test it out because lime and beer, they go well together. Anything else you'd like to say about our friend the gimlet? Where did the name Gimlet come from? That's what we forgot to talk about. Well, they don't know. End of story.
Well, there was a guy named Gimlet, much like everything else in this episode. There's a guy named Rose.
Yeah, it's possible that it was named after a guy, Sir Thomas Gimlet, KCB, on my little note here. I don't know what KCB means. I should have done it better and looked that up. But he was the Surgeon Admiral, whatever that is. We can only assume Surgeon General of the British Navy. Or we could look it up again.
The internet.
Some text probably going to show up here at some point and tell us what's actually going on. But I think he was one of the people that was like, we should have limes on the boats and make sure our sailors don't get scurvy. And so it's thought that they might have named it after him.
Have it full of just alcohol with limes.
Yeah. So it's possible it was named after him, but other people think that it wasn't. So, c'est la vie. The important thing is, it's a good drink.
And you can make one too.
Cheers to the interwebs.